Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tearing into a scenario that should probably keep every autonomous vehicle engineer up at night.
Mm.
We're getting into a level 4 AV, the car that's supposed to give you total freedom from driving, and bam, it immediately gets hit with a cyber attack.
It's like the ultimate disruption, isn't it?
Right.
Level 4 automation promises that you, the driver,
Yeah.
can be completely checked out doing, well, anything else.
Right.
But that very promise creates this unprecedented safety risk when some system compromise forces you to suddenly jump right back into the loop.
And that's the core conflict we're exploring today. What actually happens when your brain is totally immersed in something else, a non-driving related task, or NDRT?
Yeah.
Maybe you're watching a movie, maybe composing a tricky email, and boom, a hacker triggers some kind of dangerous system alert. We've got new research that really charts that moment of re-engagement. It reveals just how long it takes your brain to switch gears from being distracted back to, defensive driving.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, let's just ground ourselves in the context. Level 4 high automation. What are we talking about here?
So level 4, according to the SAE standard, means the vehicle handles all the driving tasks independently.
All of them.
Under specific conditions, yes. But crucially, you are not required to continuously monitor the road.
Ah, okay.
And that lack of a monitoring requirement, that changes the whole game.
Right. And that operational freedom, it opens up vulnerabilities, complex ones.
Exactly. These systems rely on tons of input sensors, communication lines, complex algorithms. And the researchers here focus specifically on perception-based cyber attacks.
Meaning?
Threats that don't necessarily, physically crash the car immediately, but they falsify the data the driver relies on.
Okay, like bogus collision warnings or fake speed notifications popping up, maybe blocking access to your navigation system. Precisely.
Yeah.
Or denial of service to your in-vehicle information system, the IVS. It's really an attack on the human's understanding of reality, not just the machine itself.
So how do they test this high-stakes handoff?
They recruited 45 participants, put them in a pretty sophisticated level 4 driving simulator, but they were subjected to what I kind of think of as a brilliant trap, really designed to test their cognitive limits.
A brilliant trap, I like that. Okay, variable 1 was how deep they let people fall into distraction, right? The NDRT engagement.
Correct. They had 3 groups, a baseline, no NDRT group, just paying attention.
Okay.
Then a single NDRT group doing a highly visual and manual task, basically, a demanding typing assignment on a laptop. And finally, the dual NDRT group. These poor folks were typing, plus simultaneously playing a spoken word chain game with the experimenter. They were really trying to simulate maximum mental drain there.
Typing and playing a word game. At the same time, wow, I can barely form a coherent thought waiting in line for coffee. That really simulates, deep immersion.
Precisely. And then variable 2 was the stakes. Attack criticality.
Meaning, how serious was the fake alert?
Exactly. Was it non-safety related, like, I don't know, replaying your personal messages?
Yeah.
Or showing misleading general info on the IVS?
Okay.
Or was it safety related? Things like manipulating sensors to show a sudden fake 60-mile-per-hour speed change, or GPS spoofing that totally messed with navigation. Real danger signals.
Gotcha. And the goal was to measure, what? 4 key things.
Yeah. Situation awareness, or eye gaze behavior, where were they actually looking? Response time, that critical lag between the alert hitting and their foot pressing a pedal, and cognitive workload, using the standard NASA TLX measure. So the results, they basically confirmed what you might intuitively expect, but the scale of it is stark. Engaging in any level of NDRT significantly hammered the driver's readiness to handle an emergency.
Not just a little dip, huh?
No, it wasn't subtle. It was a clear, significant performance decrease.
Okay, let's break down that decrease. Start with situation awareness. What does SA mean when you're talking about a cyber attack?
Right. Situation awareness, SA, it's your cognitive grasp of what's happening. It's measured across 3 levels.
3 levels.
Yeah. Level 1 is just perception. Did you even see the alert? Level 2 is comprehension. Do you understand the threat? And this is key for cyber. Is it just my speed is wrong? Or is it a hacker might be making my speed look wrong? Big difference.
Yeah.
And level 3 is projection, predicting what happens next if you don't act.
Okay.
And the finding was stark. Drivers in either the single or dual NDRT groups had significantly lower SA scores across all 3 levels compared to the attentive group.
So their brains just didn't fully perceive or interpret the situation when the alarm went off.
Pretty much. The processing just wasn't happening effectively.
The response time data, though, that's the one that really jumps out at me. That's potentially life or death. How delayed were the distracted drivers?
The delay was significant, yeah. Both the single and dual NDRT groups took, well, significantly longer to hit the pedal after the alert compared to the no NDRT group.
Their brains were slow to re-engage, and then their bodies followed suit.
Exactly. Cognitive re-engagement was sluggish.
But here's the part that, wow, it really stopped me when reading this. Even the no NDRT group, the drivers who were supposedly fully attentive, they still had a pretty long average response time, 3.79 seconds.
Yes. That finding is absolutely critical. Because when researchers study typical level 3 AV takeover scenarios, the car says, okay, I'm handing back control now.
Yeah.
The average takeover time reported is usually around 2.15 seconds.
So the cyber threat response was almost 2 seconds slower, even for drivers who were watching the road.
Yes, even for the attentive group.
Wait, hold on. So even if I'm paying attention, a cyber alert takes way longer to process than a standard system failure alert. Why? Why is the brain treating this so differently?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems to be because a cyber attack is inherently novel and ambiguous.
Ambiguous? How so?
Well, it requires significant extra cognitive processing time just to recognize it, then assess it, and, crucially, determine if the information you're suddenly getting is even trustworthy. A routine takeover alert is basically the car saying, I'm failing, you need to drive now. Pretty clear.
Okay.
A cyber alert is more like the car saying, I might be lying to you right now. You need to figure out what's real before you act.
That fundamental ambiguity, that's where the extra mental delay comes from.
Exactly. That's the source of that extra latency, even for attentive drivers.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because the visual attention data, where people were actually looking, tells this fascinating story of the brain just struggling to catch up.
It really does. We saw some counterintuitive behavior during the NDRT phase, before the attack even happened.
How so?
Both distracted groups, single and dual NDRT, actually spent more time fixating on the road than the attentive group.
Wait, more time looking at the road? That sounds like an instinctive compensation strategy. Like, okay, I know I'm kind of distracted typing this email, so I better glance up more often just in case.
It suggests an awareness of risk, absolutely. But here's the paradox. This increased visual fixation did not translate into better situation awareness scores.
It didn't help.
No, which really reinforces this psychological concept called inattentional blindness.
Inattentional blindness,
Meaning you could be literally staring right at something.
Yeah.
Your eyes are pointed at the road, they're open, but because your cognitive bandwidth is completely maxed out writing that email or solving that word puzzle, your brain essentially just filters out the road information. You're visually present, but you're mentally absent. Looking isn't the same as seeing, cognitively speaking.
Wow, okay. And then when the attack actually hit, the most distracted drivers showed, severe cognitive inertia, like they couldn't snap out of it?
Exactly. The dual NDRT group, the ones topping and talking, demonstrated the worst recovery by far. After the cyber attack alert appeared, they failed to significantly increase their road fixation compared to the attentive group.
They were still kind of mentally locked into their distraction.
That's what it looks like, yes. Cognitive inertia.
Which presumably also affected their ability to even assess the alert itself.
Absolutely. They couldn't even properly dedicate attention to the warning message.
How do we know that?
Because that same dual NDRT group spent significantly less time looking at the IV screen, the central console displaying the alerts, than the other groups did after the attack started. Their high cognitive load just limited their ability to monitor and process that critical visual alert.
And there was another blind spot too, right? The dashboard?
Yes, good point. Across all the NDRT engaged groups, there was this shared area of dangerous neglect.
Right.
The dashboard itself. They spent significantly less time monitoring essential vehicle status, info like speed, fuel levels.
Information that's absolutely vital context if you're trying to figure out if an alert about your speed, for instance, is real or totally faked.
Precisely. You need that ground truth from the dashboard. And this kind of leads us nicely into the role of attack criticality. Remember, the study tested whether a safety-related attack, where the implied threat was real and dangerous, generated a faster, better response than a non-safety-related one.
Right. And I would totally expect that if the system suddenly screams that I'm speeding dangerously or my brakes are failing, my reaction would be, instantaneous compared to a minor glitch. Did severity make people react faster?
Surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah. The severity of the attack, the criticality, did not significantly affect situation awareness, gaze behavior, or most critically response time.
So the immediate cognitive hurdle of just stopping the typing task or the word game,
Mm.
that was a bigger factor in reaction time than the difference between a faked text message alert and a faked brake failure warning.
That appears to be the key insight here. The initial re-engagement process, just pulling your attention back, it just dominates everything else in those first crucial seconds.
Wow.
However, criticality did significantly affect one variable, perceived workload. Safety-related cyber attacks induced significantly higher perceived effort-like mental difficulty compared to the non-safety-related attacks, according to the NASA TLX scores.
So people felt like it was harder work when the threat seemed serious.
Exactly. It confirms drivers do exert more mental effort when they eventually realize the threat is high risk, but that effort doesn't translate into faster initial speed if their attention is already scattered elsewhere. The disengagement bottleneck comes first.
That workload nuance is fascinating, especially thinking about the dual NDRT group again. They were juggling two different types of tasks, right? Visual manual typing and auditory verbal word game.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed slightly different workload patterns than the single task typing group.
They did. And this kind of aligns with cognitive psychology models, like multiple resource theory, because the dual NDRT group was using relatively separate sensory and processing channels, ISHANs, for typing, ears voice for the game. They weren't competing for the exact same finite mental resources quite as intensely as someone doing two highly visual tasks might. That separation might have actually buffered them slightly from complete mental overload compared to, say, trying to read and type simultaneously.
Huh. So the type of distraction matters, not just how many distractions there are.
It seems so. The type of distraction matters just as much as the intensity, yeah.
Okay, so what does this all mean then? For the auto industry, for designers, we can't really dismantle the whole promise of level 4 autonomy, can we? We can't just tell people, hey, don't get distracted in your self-driving car.
No, that's unrealistic.
The data seems to point pretty clearly towards, well, design failures in how these handoffs are currently imagined. What specific, actionable changes did the researchers push for based on this behavior?
They derive 4 clear imperatives for human-centered design, really aimed at bridging that dangerous cognitive gap caused by NDRTs.
Okay, lay them out. Imperative 1 focuses on the eyes, right? Minimizing visual disruption, especially since drivers were kind of all over the place with their gaze, IVIS, dashboard, road.
Exactly. We absolutely need to move critical alerts directly into the driver's primary field of view.
Like heads-up displays.
Heads-up displays, yes. Or maybe augmented reality overlays directly on the windshield.
Mm.
The goal is to minimize that off-road glance time that completely pulls them out of the driving loop.
Yeah.
Maximize the chance the information gets processed almost instantly.
Okay. Imperative 2. Differentiate urgency effectively. Because drivers clearly struggle to assess the criticality quickly on their own.
Right. The system has to basically screen the difference for them.
Oh.
The alert modality itself has to match the risk level.
Mm-hmm.
We need really distinct color coding. Red for critical, yellow for moderate, maybe green or blue for informational.
Makes sense.
And integrating multimodal alerts. Maybe haptic seat vibrations for the most severe threats, potentially paired with clear verbal cues for lower priority notifications. Rapid assessment needs more than just another flashing icon on a busy screen.
Okay. 3 is about providing context. That slow, nearly 4-second response time, even for attentive drivers, suggests that understanding the nature of a cyber attack is just plain hard.
It is. So the system shouldn't just alert. It needs to explain and guide. And this was actually a strong preference voiced by participants in the post-experiment survey.
What did they want?
They wanted things like verbal prompts or maybe conversational agents that quickly summarize the attack type, which systems are affected, and recommended actions. Something clear like, unauthorized GPS spoofing detected. Please reconfirm your route immediately.
Yeah, that seems much more helpful. Okay, and finally, personalization. Recognizing that people just have different tolerance levels for mental interference and alerts.
Mm-hmm. If cognitive overload is enemy number 1 here, the driver needs some control. Participants suggested allowing drivers to tailor alert frequency and intensity.
Like a high alert mode versus a minimal alert mode.
Exactly. A cautious driver might want everything flagged, while someone else might prefer only critical interruptions to avoid alert fatigue. A one-size-fits-all approach here seems likely to increase risk for some users.
So this deep dive really confirms that maybe the greatest immediate threat to level 4 autonomy isn't necessarily the technology failing on its own, but the human brain struggling, really struggling, to re-engage effectively when something unexpected, like a hack, happens. NDRT engagement is clearly the primary barrier to timely response and getting adequate situation awareness back.
It really is. And that's the lingering danger that absolutely has to be solved. We need to remember this research focused on relatively short NDRT durations, just a couple of minutes.
Right.
And it was in controlled simulator scenarios where the attack only changed the information display, not the car's actual behavior.
Yeah. We've seen the danger unfold over just 2 minutes of deep distraction here. Now, imagine the real-world implications. If you, the listener, are driving cross-country, maybe you've been disengaged for 30 minutes, maybe you're a bit drowsy.
Or worse, what if the cyber attack does alter the actual vehicle dynamics? Imagine forced acceleration or steering interference instead of just a misleading message on a screen.
That's terrifying.
The future of AV safety really hinges entirely on solving this human-automation handoff, especially under the most surprising and urgent conditions. The industry has to move quickly, I think, to implement these kinds of human-centered design principles before the mass adoption of Level 4 makes these dangerously delayed reactions a potential daily reality on our roads.